Once I heard a phrase that struck me: a person carries their tomorrow in the pocket of their today. I thought for a long time about what it meant, and I realized it's not about money, not about status, and not even about knowledge. It's about that invisible thing we carry inside, our attitude. It quietly guides our decisions, it shapes our habits, it lays down the road we will walk. And if you've ever wondered why one person rises while another keeps treading in place, the reason might not be where you're looking. Stay tuned, because today we will uncover the power that often goes unnoticed, yet defines everything. And in the end, I will give you a few practical questions that will help you measure your inner strength right now. We all carry a suitcase of the past with us, and interestingly, some carry it like a treasure chest, while others like a burden. For some, it holds pearls of experience; for others, stones of regret. But we all have the same suitcase. The only difference is what we decide to do with its contents. Let me tell you a story. When I was 25, I was literally standing on ruins. Debts, failures, no plan. In my pocket, a few cents; in my heart, uncertainty; in my head, the question, why is this happening to me? It was easy to blame the company, the economy, friends, even my parents. But then my mentor, Mr. Schauf, appeared, and he gave me another perspective. He said, "Jim, your past is not your enemy. It is your teacher. If you start looking at it as a school and not as a weapon, your future will change." And I realized the past can always be used in two ways. It either hits us over the head or it lifts us up a step higher. Mistakes are not chains, but signposts. Failures are not labels, but textbooks. The only question is whether we are ready to open those textbooks. Think about it. How many people get stuck in memories of what could have been, lost opportunities, wrong decisions? They replay them like an old film, again and again. But the film doesn't change, it only shows the same thing. That's the trap. The past won't change no matter how much we regret, no matter how much we beat ourselves up. But we can change. I learned to look at my past as a museum. In a museum, there are beautiful exhibits and frightening ones. Some inspire awe, others remind us of painful times. But nobody spends the night in a museum. You go there to look, to draw conclusions, and then leave. Our past is a museum, not a bedroom. Its role is to remind us who we are, what we did, what we should avoid, and what we can do better. Imagine walking down a road and seeing old footprints in the sand. They're real, they were made, but they are already behind you. If you keep turning back to look at them, you'll trip over a rock in front of you. But if you keep moving forward, the footprints will remain a memory, not chains. I want to address you directly. What is your attitude toward your past? Do you see it as a burden or as a lesson? Because the answer to that will determine how light your step into the future will be. Many people live with guilt. They say, "I should have started earlier. I missed my chance. I ruined everything." But let me tell you honestly, you are not alone. Everyone has a chapter in their book they'd like to rewrite. Everyone has a moment they regret. But those very chapters make our story alive. They give it color, contrast, depth. Without failures, victories would be bland. Without pain, joy would be pale. When I changed my attitude toward my past, I changed my attitude toward myself. And you know what? I stopped waking up with a burden and started waking up with curiosity. What lessons from yesterday prepared me for today? And then the past stopped being my enemy. It became my ally. We cannot change what has already happened, but we can change how we look at it. And that is where freedom begins. Because attitude is a choice. You don't choose the facts, but you choose the interpretation. And the moment you change the interpretation, you change the story. That's why I say, if you truly want to have a bright tomorrow, stop beating yourself up over yesterday. Stop fighting your past. Thank it for the lessons. Write them down. Smile and move on. Because only then will the doors of today open for you. Today is the quiet gatekeeper of a great future. It doesn't shout, doesn't wave a flag, doesn't play fanfares. It simply appears at midnight sharp and politely asks, "Here I am. What are you going to do with me?" When I first truly listened to this question, I felt a bit uncomfortable. Because honestly, I often waited for a special day, for inspiration, for perfect circumstances. And today looked at me with a slight smile, like an old mentor. "You may wait, but I do not wait." And then I realized one simple thing. The present is not a luxury and not a coincidence. It is a tool. It is a workshop in which we shape the form of tomorrow. They say each of us has the same daily ration of time. Not all of us have the same starting conditions, connections, or capital, but we all wake up with the same today. And the difference between two people is often defined not by what they know and not even by what they can do, but by how they treat this day. I saw this with my own eyes. I once had a calendar full of plans but few completed actions. I planned beautifully but acted in bursts. And every time I postponed action, I was training my mind to postpone life. Today politely checked off, another day just like yesterday. And then I shifted the question from when to how exactly today. Not when will the perfect moment come, but how will I turn today's moment into work for the future? I like to think of the present as a threshold. On one side, yesterday's habits; on the other, tomorrow's results. The threshold doesn't like fuss, but it loves clarity. I'll say it straight. Today doesn't demand heroism from you. It asks for decisiveness. Decisiveness is when you don't bargain with yourself, because the most exhausting negotiations are the ones we have in our own heads every morning. To get up or sleep 5 more minutes, to do or to postpone, to make the call or prepare an excuse. Each little surrender seems small, but from them are built the yesterdays that repeat for years. And conversely, each little act, a short phone call, 3 written paragraphs, 20 minutes of movement, 1 sincere conversation, is a brick in the bridge that connects you to a better version of yourself. I often tell my friends and listeners, don't wait for motivation, create momentum. Motivation is a fickle guest. It comes when it feels like it. But momentum is the result of the first step. Make the first move, and both body and mind begin to support you. I remember the day I decided, no big promises, only today. I wasn't planning to change my whole life in one morning. I just picked up one task I had been postponing for weeks. That small act didn't bring applause, but it brought me self-respect. And self-respect is fuel that burns longer than enthusiasm. It quietly whispers, I can trust my decisions. And when you trust yourself today, tomorrow's decisions become twice as easy. But the present is not only about speed and doing more, it's also about focus. In today's world, it's easy to feel like being in a room with a dozen open doors, each one inviting, each one important, each one demanding attention. But the day doesn't stretch, and attention is not elastic. So the question is not whether you will manage to do everything. The question is whether you will manage to do what matters most. I've developed a simple rule for myself. Let at least one thing happen today that moves me significantly forward. Not 10 small noises, but one clear sound. One conversation that builds relationships. One paragraph that moves the book. One step that strengthens health. One choice that clears space. When the day has its main gesture, it gains shape, not just movement. There's another thing that makes today a strong ally. Freedom from yesterday's labels. We love definitions. I'm not a morning person. I'm not an athlete. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm bad at talking to people. These phrases sound like facts, but they are only stories we repeat. Today has a wonderful quality of interrupting old stories. It offers, try saying it differently. Not, I'm not a morning person, but today I'll wake up 20 minutes earlier. Not, I'm not an athlete, but today I'll walk briskly for half an hour. Not, I'm bad at speaking, but today I'll practice one short presentation. When we change the wording, we change the behavior. And when we change the behavior, we rewrite the script. And yet, let's be honest, sometimes today hurts. There are days when energy is low, news is overwhelming, and the world feels heavier than usual. And here's an important secret for you, my friends. Such days are not meant for heroics. They are meant for keeping the course. When there's a storm, the ship doesn't throw a feast. The ship holds its course. Your task on difficult days is to do the minimum that maintains your identity. One small step that says, I'm still in the game. It is in these very days that character is forged, not habits. It's easy to be consistent in good weather. True discipline shows up when you want to give up. I also learned another quiet art, to end the day with respect. Not just collapse into bed, but take a moment to look back. What was the main gesture today? What did I do right? Where did I miss? And what should I adjust? Not for self-blame, for learning. Imagine a violinist tuning the instrument not only before the concert, but also after rehearsal. Each today is a tuning. The finer we adjust the strings, the purer our tomorrow sounds. And when I respectfully close the day, I am in fact opening the next one. Sleep becomes a bridge, not an escape. Perhaps you'll ask, where does attitude come in here? I'll answer simply, attitude is the air pressure of your day. It's invisible, but it influences everything. The same action, done with a different internal tone, gives a different result. You can complete a task with resentment toward the world, and the day will leave an aftertaste of fatigue. Or you can complete the same task with the curiosity of a student, and fatigue turns into quiet satisfaction. Attitude is not a mask and not a whim. It's the way you enter every detail. Today either renews you or repeats your yesterday. And that, friends, is always our choice. So let me ask you a few quiet questions today. What is the one step that will make your day meaningful, even if everything else goes off plan? What is the one word you are ready to remove from your inner dictionary to clear the field for better decisions? What is the one small promise to yourself that you will keep without bargaining, so that in the evening you can look in the mirror with respect? Don't rush the answers, but don't delay the action. Today politely waits at the door. It is courteous but impatient. Its gift lies in your willingness to reach out your hand. And here's the best part. Today doesn't ask for trust for a lifetime. It asks for trust for just one day, for this hour, for this step. Give it a chance. Give yourself a chance. And tomorrow, when it knocks again at midnight sharp, you'll already know how the answer sounds. And believe me, you'll like that sound, because it will be the sound of your new, steady rhythm, the rhythm of a person who stopped waiting and started creating, here and now. And now let's talk about tomorrow. The future is not a calendar date and not a random shower of events. The future is a room you furnish with today's thoughts. For a long time, I believed it came to us like a train on schedule. In reality, we build the tracks ourselves, we lay the rails ourselves, and it is our attitude that determines which way they turn. You may have the best information, the most precise plans, but if there is no fire of vision inside, your train will stand still. Conversely, when the vision is clear, even old wagons begin to move unexpectedly fast. The future loves those who see it clearly. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but clearly. What does that mean in practice? I believe in the power of imagination, not as dreamy cinema, but as a working tool. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what does my ideal morning look like 5 years from now? Where do I live? Who am I talking to? What work am I doing that makes me feel useful? Don't chase big words. Look for details, the smell of coffee, the light in the window, the name of the person you helped today. The more detailed the vision, the more willingly today's decisions align with it. The mind is a practical worker. If you show it the blueprint, it will start building. One of my mentors once said, "You don't get what you want, you get what you become." At first, this phrase offended my impatience. I wanted results without rebuilding myself. But I realized the future is a mirror. It cannot give you a reflection that doesn't exist in reality. If you dream of health, but feed your body with haste and randomness, the mirror will honestly show randomness. If you dream of meaningful work, but choose meaningless crumbs every day, the mirror doesn't lie. But the moment you begin to change, even little by little, the reflection starts to catch up with the new silhouette. Here it's important not to confuse dreams with escape. Dreams without action are sweet anesthesia. Vision, however, always gives instructions. A real picture of the future whispers very specific things to you. Call this person, finish that course, read those 10 pages, do one exercise, clear one piece of clutter. I like to think of it as a lighthouse. The lighthouse doesn't pull the ship by rope, it simply shines. But it is this light that makes the captain adjust course again and again. Your vision is the light. Your daily corrections are the real navigation. Once, when I was just learning to speak on stage, I imagined an audience I didn't have. I heard applause no one else heard. I saw the eyes of people I didn't know. No, it wasn't vanity. It was rehearsal for the future. I wasn't rehearsing fame, but responsibility. What will I say to truly help someone? Whom should I invite on stage in my thoughts so I don't forget humility? And you know what happened? One day that audience appeared. And I was ready for it, not because I was special, but because my attitude toward the future was practical. I was laying small bricks today under that great arch of tomorrow. The future also sets a condition rarely spoken about. Let the old you step aside. This isn't about betraying the past. It's about respecting evolution. It's hard to move forward while dragging along all the roles that once helped you survive but no longer help you grow. Some labels were necessary at earlier stages. Thank them and remove them. Empty hands hold a new wheel more easily. I love a simple ritual that strengthens my attitude toward tomorrow. A short letter from the future to myself. Not I will be, but I am. I am a person who keeps my word. I am someone who knows how to pause and listen. I am someone who works a little more on myself than on circumstances. Such letters are not magic. They correct identity. And identity, friends, pulls behavior along, and behavior results. And one more thing. Don't demand perfection from the future. It will arrive with surprises, sometimes not the ones we asked for. But if your attitude is strong, you will turn surprises into masterclasses. You will learn to see disappointment as recalibration, not as a curse. And then even detours will bring you to the right place. This is where true calm lives, not in guarantees, but in confidence that no matter what wave comes, you have a course and hands on the wheel. And now, a little intrigue. At the end, we'll take a few practical steps so that your vision stops being fog and becomes mailing instructions for tomorrow morning. I'll have questions for you that measure not only dreams, but readiness. And if you answer them honestly, the future will answer you the same way, with clarity. But that's coming soon. For now, let your mind spend one more minute as an architect. Look at the blueprint. Feel how the tone inside you shifts. That's the work of attitude. That's how quietly the great road is built. And now, about the foundation, about attitude toward yourself. Once I caught myself in a strange habit. I could easily see greatness in others, yet stubbornly ignored it in myself. I applauded other people's achievements while silently devaluing my own. Sound familiar? We often live with an inner commentator who speaks quietly but confidently. You're not enough. It's too soon. Who needs this? And if you listen to that voice long enough, it becomes law. But here's what I realize. The inner voice is not a judge, it's an announcer. It reads the script our daily choices hand it. Change the choices. The script changes. The script changes. The tone changes. The tone changes. You change. My life turned sharply when my mentor told me a phrase that still resonates in my chest like a tuning fork. Work harder on yourself than on your job. At that time, I was offended by reality and bargaining with circumstances. But I should have been bargaining with my own limitations. Because everything we attract by who we become. Try for a moment to imagine yourself as a bank account of self-respect. Every small promise you keep is a deposit. Every broken promise is a withdrawal. No wonder it's hard to make bold decisions when the balance is negative. The good news is that this account replenishes with the same small steps. 10 pages read, 1 phone call you've been avoiding, 20 minutes of movement, 5 minutes of silence without a phone. Invisible deposits build loud confidence. Attitude toward yourself begins with getting acquainted with yourself. Not with the ideal version, but the real one. I often repeat, don't trust memory, keep a notebook. When you write down your thoughts, wins, mistakes, not for show, but honestly, you suddenly see structure where before there was fog. You notice that you repeat certain patterns. You catch which words trigger fear in you and which trigger decisiveness. And believe me, once you see your own map, choosing the road becomes easier. Awareness lifts half the burden. But there is another trap we fall into, comparison. We measure ourselves with other people's rulers and then wonder why we always fall short. The way out is simple, yet difficult. Switch to the format of me versus yesterday's me. Ask yourself today not better than someone, but better than yesterday. This changes the game because you stop chasing someone else's pace and start building your own rhythm. And this is where dignity is born. Dignity is not about loud titles, it's about inner agreement. I know who I am becoming, and then even small progress tastes significant. I know you may be tormented by the question, but what do I do with mistakes, with shame? I'll answer directly. Don't hide them, transform them. Shame is energy that needs work. If you silence it, it hardens. If you work with it openly, it becomes a compass. I learned to say to myself, yes, here I fell short. Yes, here fear got the better of me. What does this say about my skills? What one skill can I train over the next 30 days? When shame receives a task, it stops ruling and starts serving. And one more thing, Guard the doors of your mind. Standing guard doesn't mean living in an ivory tower. It means choosing. What do I let into my inner home and what not? News, conversations, feeds, all of this either nourishes your dignity or erodes it millimeter by millimeter. When I began consciously feeding my mind with what nurtures respect for myself, I noticed how my posture straightened. Yes, literally. The body follows the thoughts. Speech changes. Tone becomes calmer. Actions sharper. And interestingly, the world begins to respond in kind. Because the world is a mirror, and it reflects what you bring into it. Friends, the key discovery is simple. You are already valuable enough to begin. Not someday when you get a diploma, a position, or approval. Today. Value is not a reward for perfection, it's the starter kit. But the scale of that value is revealed through discipline. When every day you do small things that confirm your new identity, you are like a sculptor removing the excess. And one day you look and recognize yourself. Not accidental, not pieced together from others' expectations, but authentic. From this kind of attitude, the courage to dream and the responsibility to act both grow. And yes, in a moment we'll move on to practice, to living questions that will give your attitude form and strength. But first, let me invite you for just a few seconds to look into your inner mirror without the critic and without the mask. Did you see? From that respect, we will begin. Friends, here are 5 simple yet profound questions. They will help you see how much your attitude truly works for you. Don't stop. Answer on the go. Intuitively without thinking too long. Because sometimes the first answer is the most honest. First question. From 1 to 10, how grateful are you today for your past? Not bitter, not disappointed. Grateful. Because gratitude is like fertilizer for the soil. New strength grows from it. Second question. From 1 to 10, how much are you using today as a chance to start with a clean slate? You have 1,440 minutes. How many of them are working for your future? Third question. From 1 to 10, how much do you allow yourself to see a great future? Do you dare to dream boldly? Are the pictures in your imagination as vivid as they were in childhood? Because the future is born first in imagination and only then in reality. Fourth question. From 1 to 10, how much do you value yourself? Do you recognize your talents? Do you applaud your own small victories as much as you do others? Because if you don't believe in yourself, it's hard to expect the world to do it for you. And the fifth question, from 1 to 10, how much do you truly control your attitude? Not blaming others, not justifying anger or envy, but taking full responsibility for your inner state. Because that is your main capital. Think about these answers now, but don't rush to close them. I invite you to return to these questions after watching, sit down calmly, go through them once more, and take a more serious look at why you gave exactly those ratings. And friends, if this video is valuable to you, subscribe, give it a like, and share it with someone who needs it today. You know, friends, life often reminds me of a garden. In this garden, there are seeds of the past, fruits of the present, and branches stretching into the future. But the most important thing is how the gardener treats their soil. Some allow the weeds of regret and fear to choke their field. Others patiently weed, water, and treat even the smallest sprout as a miracle. Attitude is the gardener's hand. It can turn a wasteland into a garden, and a garden into a wasteland. When I look back on my life, I don't see perfect roads, but many turns where attitude made the difference. Time and again, it became that inner whisper saying, "Get up one more time." And looking back, I realize success and happiness rarely came to me as gifts. They came as consequences, as responses to my attitude. So remember this, you can't always choose your circumstances, but you can always choose your attitude. And that choice will determine whether you are a victim of events or their creator. I'll leave you with one thought worth carrying. Your attitude is a door. If it is open to hope, discipline, and gratitude, life will enter with gifts. If it is closed with fear or disappointment, even the greatest opportunities will pass you by. So be vigilant, be wise, and above all, be the master of your inner garden. Because there, in the silence of your attitude, everything else is born. Your decisions, your relationships, your victories. Guard this treasure, nurture it, and then your tomorrow will thank you for who you were today.